Right, so what I'd like to do now, first of all, is thank all our speakers, because they were a bit nervous tonight. I didn't know what to expect. They just said yes to me, because a lot of people do. They didn't know what to expect. So can we just give them all a big round of applause? And what I'd like to do is just open up the floor. Does anyone have any specific questions for any of the three speakers up here? Okay, so Andrew.
Yeah, Andrew, from the interview. My question was for Ali. A friend of mine asked me today, actually, funny enough, if I had any advice. He's a property developer and he wants to set up a website, but he wants to trade on it as well. And I just thought, what advice would you give to someone who wants to start trading on the internet? In terms of setting up a web page, what would be the essential keys?
I think it depends. Oops, sorry. I think it depends first and foremost whether he's looking to use that website as his sort of brand identity, as his shop front, or whether he's actually looking to trade through it primarily. The first piece of advice I would give is to really nail down his objectives, his requirements for what he wants. The second piece of advice that I'd say is to take an iterative approach to what he wants. So start off with what he can afford, what's realistic in the beginning, and know what he wants to build towards, and be prepared to be swayed along the way by market forces, by trends along the way, so that he can spend time building up to something that suits his user base and the market at the time. So the first step I would really say is to nail down those objectives, to take advice on what those objectives should be, and then to build towards it iteratively.
Great, thanks.
Hopefully that was helpful. Anyone else have any specific questions? Go on, be brave. Giles, yes.
There's a country in Europe, some people probably know here, where they now have a rule on the number of women on boards of companies, that they've set a minimum percentage. I wondered what the panel members feel about this kind of positive discrimination in favour of women, whether it would be a good thing to see in the UK.
Mel, would you like to answer that one?
In consulting, approximately 25% of the workforce are women, and you'll see that they are in the more junior levels. You'll see that the higher percentages are there, and then as you go up to partner, then you'll see that it's even less. It's very difficult. In consulting in particular, so we go out into financial institutions and we help them with their big strategic and visionary projects. And there are, I would say that there are two cases, UK banks and American banks, they've come to me. They said, wow, you're a woman. It's great to see a woman. It's great to finally work with a woman at a consulting agency. Or it's great to finally work with a black woman or a black person in this consulting agency, because we don't see that. We don't see that in your industry in general. So in terms of positive change, then I would say definitely. I think it's needed. However, positive affirmation does come with the drawbacks in terms of, well, did you hire me because I'm a woman, or did you hire me because of because I'm good enough, really, because I deserve to be there. And that's scary. That's something that we have to battle with. I do not have the answer to that, because that is the questions that I ask every time I'm promoted at IBM, or if they have a top performer program for blacks and ethnic minorities. And then I ask the question, am I here because you need a black face? And that's, it's politically charged, but at the end of the day, in terms of the positive affirmation, I would say that it can be done, and it can be done well, because sometimes the things as women prevent us from being good consultants, because we want to go and have children, and that means that I am going to be out of the workforce for a good year, 2 years. I anticipate that, and traveling to Hong Kong and traveling to New York on a client's whim doesn't really work in with that business model. And so I think it does give visibility to the fact that there's some changes that has to be made in the workforce in general to incorporate the lifestyle choices that all people make, not necessarily just women, but that all people with different lifestyles to the norm that was typically accepted in business a few years ago. So, am I against it or for it? I am not against it. Am I for it? Yes, but willy-nilly paintbrush all over the building? Then no. I think that has to be well thought out and well communicated.
Okay, Ali, Monica, you're both directors in your own companies. How do you feel about that question?
Well, I work in the industry which is absolutely dominated, by men, and actually that gives me an amazing advantage. They don't think I the same way like I do. They don't look at the problems. They, excuse me, guys, run into the ego thing rather than just resolve the thing. I guess we've got a lot of advantage, and we are the missing part in the business. It's like a yin and yang. The whole, the balance, it's really what works the best. And I can see it in my partnership with my brother. He is completely different, but we complete each other. And the same as in every business. If women have a courage to do so, and men have a courage to allow us.
Yeah, I think when I've worked in bigger organisations and corporations, I think, like Melanie was saying, that there is a sort of something at the back of your mind. Am I here? Have I been promoted because I'm a woman and because there were no females at that particular level? I think one of the issues to do with that is what's the impact of that within a team. I'm all about environment. I'm all about people working together and getting the best out of each other. And I think if there's a foundational resentment within a team that someone may have been promoted or achieved a particular success or position, but simply because of whether they're female or their race, whatever the issue is, I think that the communication aspect of it is absolutely key, and that's what needs to be dealt with, really.
Interesting responses. And a question? Yes, Matt.
My question is, does sort of boardroom level discrimination, which you hear about in the news all the time, women are being promoted into these positions, is that truly reflective of the overall business position, the smaller and medium-term businesses where perhaps you wouldn't get that sort of institutionalised prejudice?
Anyone like to pick that one up?
I think I may be fairly biased because Matt's my business partner, and we may have had this conversation several times before. So.
Well, I spent a couple of years working for McCann Erickson. That's the largest in the world advertising agencies, and then I came to London and worked for various sort of size of organisation. I guess women in smaller businesses have more freedom to be who they are, and they just there because there's nobody else to do it. And when you start a new, really small business, you just do everything. You sort of one woman orchestra, one man orchestra, and the best skills count. When you're on the boardroom level, then you fit within your job description, and you are kind of not allowed to do more. You just have to perform within what the contract says.
Can I just ask how many women board members we've got in the audience?
What of the company you work with?
Can you put your hands up a little bit?
Charity.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's about half a dozen. That's a good representative. Would any of you like care to comment on that last question?
Yeah, Marathon. I'd just like to reiterate what Melanie was saying about working your way up, from the basics. When I started in my company, there was 8 of us. There's now 28 there, and I literally had my hand on anything from answering the phone to making the tea for board meetings. And I think it's an essential way of learning and working your way through the company, and also when you do come on to be a board member, you also know how to advise the junior members of staff. So I think it's essential for all of us to realise if you've got an understanding of the company and all its goings on, because you've worked your way through it, then I think it helps.
I think I'd agree with that. It's the Alan Sugar, Richard Branson school of business, isn't it? Start at the very bottom and know how it works and claw your way up. Any other lady board members that have any experiences they'd like to share?
I work for a magazine company, and we've got over 60% women working for us, and in fact 7 out of the 11 board members are female. So obviously when you're working in an environment that is for women, then obviously it's slightly easier to be a board member in that environment. But nevertheless, there's still this balance, and I think it doesn't. We're probably the company where it doesn't really matter whether you're male or female. It really, there are men who succeed in the women's sectors, and there are men and vice versa, the women who are succeeding in the men's area. So I think it's easier if you're in an industry where it's more acceptable.
So can I ask you, before you went to work for this company, were you a board member at your last company? Was the ratio different or the same?
I've also worked in a completely different industry, and I actually was a board member of an entirely male-dominated company as well. Different dynamics. Different dynamics completely, yes. So I have an experience of working. I have to say I prefer working in the environment that I'm currently working in, as opposed to perhaps, as you say, perhaps where the balance, I was being, there were too many yings and not enough yang, or vice versa. So it is easier if you have enough of you to push the water uphill.
I'd like to ask a question. We've heard mention a couple of times tonight of our panel members having mentors, and I think we're hearing that quite a lot now in business, both men and women. Can I just ask the audience, does anyone have any mentors lurking in the background? Oh, a few. Handful, okay. And was that something you were advised to do, or something that you decided to do for yourself? Julia?
I maybe should declare my bias from the beginning, because I now have a company which offers mentoring as well. So you know where I'm coming from. But I started many years ago, long before the 87 crash in banking. And I was the first woman trader, first female with the corner office in banking. And I wouldn't have gone there without mentors. Female mentors who told me how to survive in a male environment, but also male mentors who explained to me what was going on, and all the political stuff I actually didn't have to worry about, because it was a boys' thing. And I just could do my job and just climb up while they were fighting each other. It didn't take me serious, and I just got the promotion. And all this time, and even now, having my own company, I couldn't survive with my own company without having different people telling me different things. That can be somebody I call on a regular basis, and somebody who maybe I call just every 2 or 3 years. If there is a new step in my company and I need new advice. And I have sometimes people I pay for, because they're experts in their field and like a consultant, but it's a very mentoring role. And there are some people I brought with the lunch, and I think there are some people who don't even know that I see them as a mentor. Yeah, so if you might be a mentor to somebody without knowing, yeah. But if you make the conscious decision of becoming one or helping somebody on, it really helps to learn how you listen and how you ask questions to help them to think, and how you tell your stories in a way that they can learn from it. Because, I found it incredibly helpful to sometimes just to hear that somebody did the same mistake and survived, or actually heard about certain mistakes before I could make them and actually stopped in my track. So whoever hadn't had a mentor yet, please go and find yourself nice people.
Okay, Mel wants to say something.
I have different mentors for different seasons and different things, different aspects of my life. So in terms of being a good consultant, then I have my 2 male mentors who are absolutely fantastic to me. To be honest, because of the strong personality that I have, I also need someone who'll be able to tell me, you know what, you're full of ish. I need someone to be able to say, you know what, now that is the wrong way that you're going. It's not the right way. And so that's actually quite hard to find someone to care enough about you to be able to go against you, who's not necessarily going to be too diplomatic in what they say to you. So there is an intimacy there. But I encourage you that if you don't have a mentor, that you don't necessarily need a mentor to represent all of your life and every aspect of your life. It'd be best to look at the areas of your life that you'd like to achieve certain things in, and then look at the person who is achieving them, and then make that the connection that way, instead of just saying, well, I love, for example, Madonna. You know, you liked Madonna, she's getting a divorce now, but you liked her marriage, you liked her career, you liked all these things about her, but at the end of the day, focus on one thing at a time, because I'm a firm advocate of having, quadrants of your life, or maybe you even have more sections of your life, and there's only so many things that you can concentrate on with 100% or 90% of your time at any given moment. And so if you're focusing on your career right now, if you're focusing on being a mother, or being a good family member, or focusing on being a good friend, or focusing on being a good volunteer and contributor to your community, then those are the people. You can just look at people in that certain, because literally I have a sphere of mentors. I would say I have throughout my lifetime, I've had over 20 mentors, and still in contact with all of them. But as a woman, I've gone through different phases in my life, and that's not necessarily reflective in all of the people. Everyone can't succeed in everything at all times.
That's a great message, isn't it? You can't do it on your own. Alan, did you want to say something?
Yeah, just one of the things that we found as well in business is that we had to go through a few mentors before we found the ones that really worked for us. I think at first we had a mentor who we didn't gel with, who for one reason or another just wasn't a constructive and positive force in the business. And initially it kind of put us off the whole situation. Do we actually need this and this kind of attitude? It's just bringing us down. And then we had to sort of come back to taking advice of people who we'd come into contact with sort of coincidentally, and realise that they were mentors, and that and it probably was a good idea to go revisit that and see whether that was a good thing. And now we have two mentors in our business, one sort of unofficial, someone who just shares a lot of the same values as we do in the company, and one who's an official mentor who we use through Business Link. Who both are just absolutely fantastic and have pulled us out of times when we didn't know how to go forward. And often I found that we did know somewhere in us, but we needed someone else with some objectivity and who understood us to say, no, come on, you know the answer to this. So I would say sort of being able to go through them and find the one that works for you is important too.
Monica, you ever had a mentor?
I got a mentor in the moment when was the darkest moment in my life, which happened just a year ago when my father passed away and we almost bankrupted, being too naive. And that was biggest learning curve, and I guess I needed to touch the bottom and get all the humility and humbleness I could get to trust that there will be a way forward. And my mentor ever since was Mike Sudden, who was a beer mat guy, kind of got a couple of companies on the stock market, etc. And he was just very down-to-earth, no bullshit attitude type of person who always told me how it is and got the best out of me. Whenever I needed support or needed kind of tamping down, that was his job. So yeah, it's amazing value.
It's an interesting comment, that Julia made earlier on about you can be a mentor without actually knowing it. Because I think probably as I was growing up, like Mel, would have different friends that I'd call for different reasons, because I just go through my list and think, there's no point in ringing them, they'll be useless. So you go through this list, yes, I can ring them and just bend their ear about that specific thing. So I think it's quite interesting that they start, in my life, they're just called friends. In the business world, I suppose they're mentors. Yes, a question from the back.
It was a question just adding to this. We've been talking about mentors as individuals. And for a long time I was a director at the Body Shop, and we found that some of our best mentors weren't individuals but actual organisations. And we learned so much. This is in sort of hippy-dippy 80s days with cohort companies like Ben & Jerry's and Patagonia and others. And I constantly feel that I'm certainly very open. My business is next door. I'd love it if people wanted to come and find out what we do, what mistakes we make. And I think that that's not necessarily a terribly English thing, and I'd like to see much more of it. So we're certainly open. We've made lots of mistakes. And certainly we were talking recently about what companies we'd like to go and see to see how things happen. And without doubt, anybody I've actually asked to go and see, they're always quite surprised and open. So that's just sort of a tip of, if you're not sure, phone up the chairman even. They're often the people who are never contacted, and give it a go.
See, it could be right under your nose and you don't know it. Anyone else got anything they'd like to contribute? Okay, well, if no one's got anything else they'd like to say, perhaps I could draw the proceedings to a close. Thank all our speakers one more time. Thank you very much. I'd also like to thank you guys for coming, and the Menier Gallery and Paintings in Hospitals. Also Sandy and her colleagues at Suru for the lovely sushi food, if any of you, I think there's probably still some left, Giles, is there? For the food and wine. Please do stay, talk, network. We've created hopefully a relatively informal atmosphere. You close your eyes a bit, you might think you're in a wine bar. Dim the lights a little bit for you. Put some soft music on, Giles, do we have some? Maybe Peter, you could sing us something from the valleys. Please do stay, drink the wine, eat the food, enjoy, mingle, network, and thank you all once again for coming. Bye.